Chris will dive deeper into the full session breakdown momentarily, but before he does, I just wanted to share with you a few of the other webinars that we have coming up. So of course, today is session 1 of our 3-part series on Microsoft D365 support. Session 2 on licensing that Morten will be running will be on September 3rd, and then session 3 revolving around D365 system performance is going to be on September 17th. Now, if you're interested in the support webinar series, which your presence here I think indicates that you are, I also think you'll get a ton of value out of our recently announced webinar series on Dynamics 365 automation modules. And this series will begin on September 10th, running through October 8th. Sessions include credit collections automation, AP automation and OCR, or optical character recognition, as well as advanced bank reconciliation. I'll put a link for this series in the chat for all those who are interested, but you can also find it on our website under the About tab with the rest of our upcoming events, and also here linked in the slide deck as you see on the screen. But with that, I'll let you take it away, Chris.
Yeah, so just a quick point, we're going to send out a copy of this at the end. So I'm going to show a lot of links, and there's one here. So if you don't want to try to frantically write them down or anything or to take screenshots, we'll send this out afterwards. And then we want questions, just to let you guys know, we will have some time for questions at the end. You can start putting them in the chat, and then we'll start curating and going through those as we get towards the end. All right, we should be about 30 minutes, and then we should have some time for questions. Okay, so as Aaron mentioned, we're going to talk about the changes to the 2024 service update cadence for D365 Finance and Operations. A little bit about myself. When I was preparing this, I realized I've been working 25 years in ERP consulting. I've always been telling people it's 15, but I realize it's actually 25, so I just feel a little bit old. But in my career, I've worked as a developer, project manager, engagement manager, and then most recently, for the past 10 years, part of the Avantiico managed services team. Been working about 15 years with Dynamics 365 and its various legacy versions, 2012.
Chris, you want on mute again.
I don't know why it keeps muting. Oh, is there maybe somebody hitting mute all or something, maybe? That might be it. I think because I'm not the meeting initiate, it will mute me too, I think. Okay, just because I can't see I have to look over here to see everybody. So if it mutes again, just tell me again, please. I've worked about 10 years with Avantiico, celebrated my 10-year anniversary last year, and our managed services team will be completing over 30 service updates this year. So if you're having any challenge with service updates, we probably have already dealt with it. Or know what's coming up. In fact, I think we just completed 6 of the updates for 10.040, and we'll be doing either between 8 and 11 10.041 updates. So we're already starting the planning for that. Okay, so we're going to talk about, first give you just an overview of what one version updates are. We'll talk about the update cadence changes for 2024. Then we'll dive into looking at an individual update. In this case, we'll look at what probably most people are interested in, the upcoming 10.041 update. We'll go through kind of the life cycle and the changes in that as well. Then we'll circle over to lifecycle services, or some people know it as LCS, and talk about some key settings in there as well. And then I think we're going to skip probably the managed services piece. If we have time and people are interested, I can give you an idea about some of our plans and options. But at the end, we're going to talk about how you can get a free service update roadmap from Avantiico. This will be curated to your exact situation. It takes us about 3 hours. There's no obligation. We'll have a call with you, go over what your busy seasons are, what version you're on now, look at your LCS settings, and help get that set up for you. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end and how you can get that to get signed up for that. Okay, so what's an update? So one version is Microsoft's continuous update model for finance and operations, or finance and supply chain. If you've had the application for a while, you know it used to be called finance and operations, so they're kind of interchangeable. One thing to note here is if you have Dynamics 365 CE applications, which are like sales, customer service, or field service, those are on a different update schedule. They're a little easier than doing F&O, and so we're not going to cover those today, but just know that there is an update schedule for those as well. So why is it called one version? Well, Microsoft essentially is trying to get everybody on the same version or mostly the same version. So people should be on the current version or essentially one version behind. And this is so Microsoft can maintain compatibility as well as your ISV partners as well. Like you can think about if they were supporting people on 5 or 6 different versions, they would have all these different updates that they have to consider how they could roll out new features and things. And since Microsoft is now essentially also providing your OS and hardware, they want to make sure that they can do that as seamlessly as possible. So what happens if you don't take an update? Microsoft has this option called auto update. So if you don't put your update in, Microsoft will put it in for you. You should never let that happen. I have not seen, and none of our customers have ever let that happen, because if you're going to auto update something like your iPhone, hey, that's great, but your enterprise production application, getting it to auto update without doing any testing is extremely risky and dangerous. I also get asked a lot if updates are cumulative, and they are. So if you are, say, on 10.0.38 and you just took 10.40, 40 would have everything from 39 and 40 in it together. Okay. So there's really 5 main areas in a service update. First is quality and security updates. So quality updates are essentially Microsoft's name for bug fixes. Just sounds better, but if there's a bug, they call it a quality update. There are also security fixes. There is a process called proactive quality updates that go in between these major updates, and these can have high priority security fixes in it. So if there's a major issue, Microsoft still has a mechanism to get the update in between these major releases. You also have major changes in some of the features each release. The main feature changes are in March and September, but excuse me, each of these updates will have some changes. Some examples are subscription billing came out in 2021. We had some recent enhanced bank reconciliation. Financial tags has been a popular one for a chart of accounts. And they're rolling out some data archiving to reduce your database size. Microsoft is going to start enforcing if you're over your database size, which is mostly determined by the number of users you have and the type of licensing. The Microsoft product is not really quite there yet, but if you are interested in looking at your database size and looking at options to reduce that, we do have some options at Avantiico to help you with that. So if you are interested, you can maybe just type in like database in the chat or something. I'm sure Morton can reach out to you and talk to you about some of the options we have there. Microsoft will, again, their plan is to start enforcing if you're over the database size to start charging for that. Each of these features that are rolled out are either going to be marked as optional, on by default, or mandatory. So when you start testing, you certainly want to be looking at the ones that are mandatory, because those are definitely going to change your system. On by default, you have the option to turn them off in feature management, and optional are, of course, you can turn them on if you like. A lot of times things don't come out immediately as mandatory. They'll kind of go through that chain where the first update might be optional, and the second update, the feature is turned on by default, and maybe by the third time they're doing an update, they're essentially making it required. Okay. Platform updates are things like to enhance the user experience or UI. This may be like an enhanced filtering. If you think about a concrete example, if you've had the application for a while, you may remember there used to be like an X up in the top right if you propped a screen in front of the other to close it, and now there's an arrow in the top left. That was kind of an example of one of the platform updates. You also have regulatory updates. Most of these are for non-US localizations, but we have had some for the US as well. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, they changed the 1099 format, and there was an update put out by Microsoft for F&O so that the 1099 rules were compliant with the IRS before you were doing that in the January, February timeframe. There was also removed or depreciated features. Depreciated essentially means we're no longer going to be updating it or supporting it, but it's still in the application. And usually after some period of time, then it'll actually be removed. Now, the good news is that usually when they're removing applications or features, they are actually replacing it with some type of enhancement. So there's usually a good news when they're removing something, although it does require some testing there. Okay. So these are really the things to look at when you're looking at a service update. Now, again, I mentioned we'll give you a screenshot. Well, you can take a screenshot if you like, but we'll send out a copy of this deck afterwards. Here are the various locations you'd have to look at in Microsoft Learn to get the information about each of these updates. Unfortunately, like this is just for 10.0.4.1. Unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't put it in one place. It's kind of all over on their website. Now, if you are an Avantiico Managed Services customer, you are receiving kind of our curated list of important features that are changing. So we go through, look at the hundreds of updates across all these different areas, and we prepare a curated list of features we think are important for most of our customers, and we publish that before every service update. Now, if you are a managed service customer, you're already getting this. You'll get the one for 10.041, likely the last week in August, or we'll have it out in the first couple of days in September, because 10.041, the next update, will be published mid-September. Just an example, we had some information about credit and collections. This is from 10.040, that we had some things and changes in master planning. But this really saves a lot of time in trying to go through all those links and figure out, what's been updated and how's it going to affect me. So there's interest in that. Again, if you're currently in an implementation with us, we can still make sure you get a copy of this as well. And if you're not working with Avantiico now, hopefully your partner is giving you at least something like this, so you know what's coming out ahead of time. So there's not a big surprise when that service update goes in. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take these service updates. I'm on a subscription model. What are my benefits? Because there is some effort here, right? You do need to do periodic testing on these to make sure that they're going in and you're not having any challenges. We certainly help you with this process. But you do get enhanced security and regular quality updates brought in with each of these. You get new features in the subscription, which can hopefully reduce your customizations. Microsoft's always looking out in the market and seeing what's important for different industries and trying to bring those new features that are needed into the standard application, so you're not doing a lot of customizations for these unique features. It also means that typically your ISVs or add-on features have better compatibility, because Microsoft is also enforcing with ISV partners. And Avantiico we are an ISV partner for 3PL and some data migration tools. These are updated on the same schedule as your D365 applications to make sure that we bring those in at the same time and ensure compatibility. As I mentioned, you also get enhanced regulatory compliance. So this isn't something where you just don't put updates in anymore and now you're way behind on what the regulatory rules are for different areas. And probably one of the best things, no more $2 million upgrades, right? Gone are the days where you have on-prem software, you've customized it like crazy. It's now customized, it's too hard to put in the service updates. And now you've been on this application for 10 years and you have to spend $2 million to upgrade to a new application, and then you take a huge hit. Now you're spending maybe $30,000, $50,000 a year to keep your system updated. It's really an investment because you're getting all the features every year for doing that. And if you extrapolate out for 10 years, that's maybe $500,000 instead of $2 million. And $2 million is probably a low estimate of what it takes to do major upgrades or move to a new application. So there's a lot of benefits in getting these features as you go along in your application lifecycle. Okay, so let's talk about the service update cadence for 2024. If you've been on the application for a while, in 2023, there were 7 updates and you could skip 3, which meant that essentially you had to at least take about 2 updates a year. But it was complicated because you had to look at all the updates were in up to 3 updates before you took your update and actually put it in, and that was very complicated. Imagine looking at those links I showed you, but then multiply that by 3 to try to figure out what's changed since the last time. So Microsoft simplified this in 2024 and now has 4 service updates. You can skip only 1 now, so you're required to at least take every other one. We do have some customers that take all of them because it can give you a bit more flexibility on when you actually start and end the updates. The updates are called or numbered 10.0 and then a number. Right now we're on 40, the next one's 41. You can, as I mentioned, skip only 1 update. 2 will be mandatory. And I'm going to go over this in a minute. There's actually 2 update windows. This is one of the most recent changes in 2024 for each of these service updates. And that's why I'm going to go through an individual one for you to kind of see what that important change is. Okay, so in the chat, if anybody feels comfortable sharing on what version you're running now, it kind of give us some good context on how we frame the rest of the conversation. 39, okay, great, good. So you'll be 39, you'll be ready for, if you're assuming you're skipping 40, then you'll be looking at 41 in the mid-September timeframe. That'll be coming out. As long as no one says 38, I think we're okay, because 38 has an auto update this Friday. So if you're a 38 and you're gonna have to take 40, you're running out of time. Okay. If you're on 40 currently, you can wait until 42, which would be early January 2025. Okay, so I can't see all the chats, but hopefully nobody put in 38. Okay, so let's look at how this changed for 2024, and it's actually changed a few times in 2024. So let's look at kind of the time frame. So you're going to have, in this case, I'm looking at 41. So there's going to be a preview version that Microsoft publishes. In this case, it was about mid-July. There's going to be a 6 to 7 week time period where this preview is out. You can actually download this and put it in an environment if there's an interest. And you can kind of look at some of the new features and things. But know that Microsoft is continuing to change this preview model throughout this process. So we highly recommend that do not do your production testing. In other words, make a decision on whether you're going to move this update in and everything's working based on the preview version. Really, you should wait until you have the generally available version. It's just good, maybe if you are, for us, like we use it because we're an ISV partner to start testing, or if there's features you might be interested in looking at and getting an idea and need more time, it might be a good time to start looking at it there as well. Okay. Then we'll come to a generally available date, or GA date. This is the earliest date that you would be able to put the service update into production. What we recommend, though, this is really when you want to start your process. Okay. So on this date, you'll have about a 4 to 5 weeks to get the service update from Microsoft, look at your customized code, get any ISV updates you may need, and then at least Avantiico, what we do is we take all of that, merge it together, and we put that in a test environment for our customers to start testing and help you with any troubleshooting that might occur. That process is about a 4 to 5 week period. You'll see that then there is 2 windows now for an automatic update. The first one will update your primary UAT environment, and then a week later will update your production and any add-on UAT environments. 3 weeks later, they have a second window, and then where the UAT environment will update, and then your production update. So these are individually pausable now. So you can pause these in LCS one or both of these windows. If the service update is mandatory for you, like let's say you're on 38 right now, you skip, well, say you're on 39 now, you skip 40 and you're going to take 41. You could actually pause this first window, but not the second. Again, you never want to actually hit these auto update dates. It's very dangerous to let it auto update, but just so you kind of get a context of when you're looking at in LCS, which I'll show you in a minute, why you're now going to see so many more listings for each of the service updates. And then Microsoft will continue to support this update all the way through May of 2025, which about correlates to if you were to pause out as far as possible after taking this update, how this is about when that would be required for your next update. It's not quite, but it's pretty close. Again, the dates I'm showing you here are the most optimistic settings that you can set in Microsoft Lifecycle Services. If it's not set properly, you're going to have even less time before these auto updates, okay? So I'm going to go over that in a minute because it's important to make sure you're set up to have the longest update schedule as possible. Okay, so let's focus in on 10.0.4.1. Let's just look at a real world example. On the bottom here, kind of these blue boxes, these are all the dates that you were seeing on the previous slide, but now let's look at how we would recommend actually running the service update. So the update will be available on 9/13. We would recommend the earliest starting the process for your code merge on that following, say, Monday on 9/16. But before that, with our customers anyway, we put together a planning session with a detailed kind of calendar view of everything that's going to happen, what environments we're going to use and such. And we'd recommend you start reaching out to your ISV partners to start asking them, hey, I'm on 10.0.3.8 now. I'm looking to go to 41. Or do you have any updates? Is my 38 version I'm already on, is that compatible with 41? You want to start reaching out to them because you want to make sure you get answers from them so you're not sometimes they take a while to get back to you and start dragging into the 6 week time period. Okay. So then look at doing that process over approximately 6 weeks. And we would suggest your latest target to be in production is Monday, 10/28. So you may be thinking, well, if I can pause all the way out until 11/9, what is these 2 weeks for? You need to have a buffer in case anything goes wrong. You think, well, I think nothing's going to go wrong. I'll give you, it does go wrong because we just did it happen with 3 customers, moving them to 10/40. We were just about to go to production, and guess what? CrowdStrike problem, right? On a Friday. Well, thankfully, it didn't take down any of our D365 environments for our customers, but they were very busy, obviously, working on other areas of the business that they had problems with. Like we had one customer that lost an entire shift in their warehouse because they had run 24/7. And they were so focused on having to restore that we couldn't get D365 up. So we had to wait until the next week. But because we had this 2-week buffer, we had that option without running right up against the auto update. So we always recommend having about 2 weeks if you can before that second window. Okay. And this is an example of what we put together for our customers for each of the service updates. We do find we get a lot of positive feedback on this calendar view because a lot of our customers will take this view and then be able to share it out with their user base and give a clear idea of when we're going to be in which environment, what system you're going to be testing in, when we're having our checkpoints, and things like that. So again, if you are not a Microsoft, or sorry, if you're not an Avantiico customer, hopefully your partner is doing something like this just so you have an idea of when your updates are occurring and such. Okay. Oh, it looks like we have one more coming in here. Okay, now we're going to look at a couple important settings here for lifecycle services. Just a quick primer in case anyone's not sure what that is. Microsoft Lifecycle Services is a portal to monitor, implement, and maintain your D365 environments. It should have been used throughout your implementation. You can access it here at this location. Again, we'll send the deck out. But it's important that at least one person in your organization should be an LCS project owner. They should have that level of privileges. You could have multiple project owners, but at least one person in your organization should. We actually have people come from other partners to come and they choose to do support with Avantiico. And I see oftentimes when we're trying to move them over, they don't even have access to their own LCS environment. And you definitely should, because there's some important features in here that you'd want to take advantage of. Okay, so we're going to go over 2 quick features here to look at. I am not going to run Lifecycle Services live in this demo because unfortunately it's kind of a slower portal and it will really drag down our time here. So I'm going to show you some screenshots. But in that free offer to kind of go through and create a roadmap for you, we're happy to go at the same time and do a screen share with you and make sure these settings are set up correctly for you. Okay. So you want to enter Lifecycle Services. You'll drop down the menu here, go to Project Settings. On the left side, you'll see Update Settings. And what you want to see here is about halfway down the page. You want to make sure that this cadence is set as you see here. This will give you the maximum amount of time before the auto updates will occur after the service update has been released. Okay. So you want to see 3rd US Eastern Saturday and 4 to 7 p.m. Again, this you should never actually be taking an update this time because you've carefully planned it, tested it, it's gone in on your schedule, not the auto update schedule, but this gives you as much time as possible. Okay, the next one is making sure your updates are paused. This is on the same page. Just if you scroll a little bit further to the bottom, you'll see a pause upcoming update. If you're not a project owner, this will be grayed out. You can scroll a little bit further up on the page and you'll see view the update calendar. Only difference is you can view it, but you can't actually pause them. Okay, so in this example, you'll see, and if you've ever paused these yourself, you're used to just likely seeing 2 lines in here for each of the updates, one for your UAT and one for your production environment. You'll see here now that there's going to be 4 listings for each service update, okay? Because there's those 2 windows. It is really important though, if you've paused these in the past, you think, oh, that's fine, I've paused these already. Once Microsoft came out with this policy change, if you had paused when there was only 2, they didn't go and pause the second update for you. So you need to make sure if you've paused one, you need to go back and make sure that you pause all 4 options for it updated to truly pause it. Okay. Unfortunately, they didn't do that under their change policy, so it's just required to go in. Again, if you're a Avantiico managed service customer, we're managing this for you, so don't worry. We're making sure those are paused. All right, so I'm going to skip just talking about our services, and I'll just kind of go into here about. As you can see, there's a lot of dates to consider. There's a lot of planning involved at each of these service updates to make sure when you don't get an auto update that the testing has been done properly, to make sure that you have frozen other things and issues you may be doing, so you're not trying to hit a moving target when you're testing. Make sure you're testing in the right environments. You're testing some time in what we call a cloud-hosted environment, some of the time in Microsoft managed environment, to give you the best chance to make sure you catch all of the issues. So we'd love to help you with this. We can set up a collaboration call. We'll prepare a roadmap that you see down below. Essentially, we'll look at when are your busy seasons, what current version are you on, what settings you have in LCS, and we'll help you build out a roadmap of what dates you're likely to want to take each of the service updates all the way through about October of 2025. That's as far as the schedule has been posted. If you are, again, a managed services customer, we already have this for you. You should have a copy. If you don't, we can send you another one. If you are currently in an implementation with Avantiico, we can still help you out with this. The dates might be slightly different because it's depending on where you are in your current implementation. Like if you're in the middle of UAT, they may have done one before or want to wait until after, things like that. But again, we'll have a short call with you, about 30 minutes, go through this. We'll prepare a roadmap. We'd have a short call back with you to kind of present the roadmap and explain why we're making specific recommendations. So if you are interested in that, you can just type in roadmap in the Teams chat. Aaron will just kind of get that tallied up, and then we'll reach back out to you later this week or early next week to kind of schedule some time over the next few weeks to get that done. Okay. All right, great. I'm going to be looking back and forth because I can see everybody over here, but my camera's here. So Aaron, do we have any questions we need to cover? Any questions anybody might have?
Nothing in the chat at the moment, Chris. But
Okay.
if you guys do have any questions, feel free to pop yourselves off mute and ask. And then otherwise, I think, yeah, I think nothing at the moment, though.
Okay, great. I'll just give you just a brief update then here on what we offer in terms of managed services. Sorry, there's looks like there's one here. Was that one, Aaron?
Yeah, there is. So Dean asked what is the status with LCS going forward?
I mean, it's still moving forward. There is some talk about moving the support mechanisms out of it. In fact, they're starting to look at some of that and moving to the Power Platform admin portal for some support if you're asking for support through there. You'll see, I think right now, if you actually go to try to get support, I think it'll actually open the Power Platform page instead, which is a little bit different.
I have a question. So in 2023 in the Cadence there, they used to have like wave updates where there were more of them, bigger updates, everything like that. Is that still the case with the 4 that we have now?
So Microsoft will publish wave releases 2 a year, and these wave releases, at least for F&O or finance and supply chain, are kind of like a preview of everything. That's kind of a statement of direction and a preview of all the things they're trying to launch during that kind of 6-month time period. But then the 1 version updates are the actual implementation of getting those into your system. Right. So for example, they may say, we're looking to put out subscription billing over the next 6 months for finance and operations, but then maybe update 10.038 or so was actually the update that would put it in your system. So the wave releases are essentially kind of like a broad view of what's coming out in their statement of direction, and then the service updates actually get those features in.
Okay, but they don't necessarily correlate to a particular quarter.
I mean, they can. There should be about 2 service updates during each, or 2 published service updates during each wave release.
Okay, perfect.
Makes sense. Yeah. There used to be a lot more, obviously, because there was 7 updates, so there'd be multiple within each wave release. I think there was one more other question there.
Yeah, Dean put in a question related to being on 1040 and then showing that the calendar update looks like 1040 is being paused. I don't know if that's a question that you want to address now or speak with Dean separately.
Certainly. Yes. So what happens is, although you're already on 40, until you get to that auto update date, it will still show on your list, but it is paused. In fact, even if it wasn't paused, what would happen on that date? You'll get an LCS message that says, we tried to update your system, but we realized you're already on the same version, so it was canceled. Unfortunately, it would be better if LCS looked at what version you're currently on and then just didn't put those lines on there, but they do. Sure. Just as we're waiting to see if there's any other questions, I'll just talk briefly about the Avantiico Managed Services, what we offer on our 1 version update service. We do create an annual roadmap. That's what we're talking about, be able to create for anybody on the call today. Again, looking at your busy seasons, upcoming features, year-end activities and such. We also get a lot of positive feedback on that because it gives people a good visual of when am I going to start looking at letting my team know they're going to be doing some updates, or they're going to be doing changes in features or need some time for testing and things like that. We also, as I showed you, will put together a very detailed calendar view of what's going to happen during each service update for you, if assuming you're not skipping that one with checkpoints, environments, and such. You also get published that curated list of the features, the key features anyway, for each of the releases, and that comes out a few weeks before the update. Will help configure, monitor LCS to make sure that you don't take an auto update and that you have as much time as possible. They also offer clear pricing of this. These are fixed price services from Avantiico, so you have a lot of clarity on what is it going to take for us to get that service update in. And we look at features and pricing, like how many ISVs you have, how many environments you have, how customized you are, if you're skipping updates or not, things like that. And we can go over that if you have an interest. Great. Okay, good. I think that's most of the information we wanted to cover. Just check if there's any other questions. Okay.
No, appreciate the time spent. We actually do manage our updates internally, and are used to the larger schedule. So just trying to make sure I understand the change in the date and the frequency.
Sure.
We run RSAT testing and then also internal regression testing prior to the update. So I think we're on track to do fine on our own, but
Great.
Just wasn't really clear with all the meetings that we've had what the new cadence was like, and so this helped.
Great. Unfortunately, they've updated a few times in 2024. That was the challenge. They went from 7 to 4, but they didn't start the 4 immediately. In January, they kind of started around March, and then there was so much negative feedback because they only had that one window, that the time between it was GA and when you had to take the update was so short that there was zero flexibility for our customers. If you skipped one, essentially you had to start on this date and you had to end on this date. And in some cases, it was like 4 weeks in between it. And it just wasn't enough time. So I think they were kind of listening to, there was a lot of pushback on it from partners and customers, and created that second window so you had a reasonable period of time, to actually test and such.
Right. Yeah, that impacted us as well too. I mean, because we have quite a few customizations, and just trying to test it all in a short window was very challenging.
Yes, I'm really glad they did it, because essentially our advice was for, until they made the 2 window updates, was essentially, if you have a very complex system, you really need to take every update, because that's the only way you're going to get more than like 4 to 5 weeks to actually update it. Because if you do take every update, you have a lot longer window, because you can wait until the next update would auto update. So you have you could have a month or 2, or maybe even 2.5 months that you have an opening to be able to take the update. But that required you to take every update before to actually get that flexibility. Great. Okay, good. Aaron, if you would just maybe wrap us up, or sounds like
yes, certainly. I can wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attendance again, and Chris for your presentation again. Like Chris mentioned, we'll be sending out this deck, and then also a recording of this shortly after, probably mid next week. Those will come out. And yeah, if you guys do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Chris or to Morton directly. And I did put the link for the D365 Finance Automation webinar series in the chat, so hopefully you guys sign up for that, and look forward to seeing you there. And session 2, will be coming up on the 3rd of September, and Morton will be diving into licensing. So look forward to seeing y'all there. Thank you so much for your
time. Morton drew the short straw to do the licensing, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, certainly. Great. If you guys have any questions, put my email in the chat here. Happy to answer any questions on these updates. I know they're complicated. So good deal.
Right.
Great.
Thank you,
everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.